One of my favorite moments in a training session is when I ask a question and there's silence. Silence not because they didn't understand the question, but silence because they're thinking so deeply. You know, if you really want to help your leaders grow, then there are times you have to ask them what I call disruptive questions. There's nothing like a great disruptive question to lead to some great strides in development in those you're equipping. So stay tuned, because today I'm going to share some examples of some disruptive questions and then give you some tips for using them well. Hey guys, this is Mac Lake. You know, this channel is designed to bring you tips, tools, and techniques to make you more effective at developing more and better leaders. So if you want to grow in your ability to develop others, make sure you click the subscribe button so you can get a reminder each Tuesday when I post a new video. I was having breakfast with a business guy the other day, and our small talk turned to his feelings of being stuck in his leadership. So naturally, I just began to ask some probing questions. And as he answered those questions, I shifted to some evaluative type questions. And as he began to reveal more about his situation, I took a rocket and launched a disruptive question his way. His reaction was so funny. He looked at me, then he looked away, and he looked at me, and he said, "Wow, nobody's ever asked me a question like that." I could literally see his brain cranking and going into a different mode as he considered the answer to that question. And as he struggled to answer it, new thoughts, new ideas, new insights started to just explode in his mind. And as a result, he came to a clear reason why he was stuck and enthusiastically discovered the next steps he needed to take in order to overcome the challenges he was facing. Every time I've seen him since, he's come up to me and thanked me for that conversation. And he's told me so many times that that 40-minute conversation changed the trajectory of his leadership. That's the power of disruptive questions. Now, unfortunately, not many leaders use this level of questions with those they lead or those they're training. Webster's defines the word disrupt this way: to cause something to be unable to continue in the normal way or to interrupt the normal progress or activity of something. You see, when you're developing people, the thing that you're fighting against is their current knowledge, their normal habits, their normal beliefs, their normal way of thinking. So there are times, in order for them to really grow and transform in their leadership, we have to explode some dynamite in their thinking. In other words, we want to disrupt the normal way of thinking in order to stimulate change and growth. Now, here's the thing. Not all questions are created equal. Your average question doesn't produce this level of deep thinking. It requires some disruptive type of questions. Now, I'm convinced that there are so many leaders who have plateaued in their development because no one ever asked them disruptive questions. So let me give you 4 examples of disruptive questions. Okay, here's the first example. What's the one thing that will keep you from making progress on your priority goal? Now, here's the key to this question. This question is designed to focus their thinking on that one thing. And many people aren't making progress toward their goals because of their thinking is too broad. So they tend to get in their own way, but they can't see it. So when somebody's stuck and you ask them this question, what's the one thing that will keep you from making progress on your priority goal? So sometimes as they process this question, they're going to come up with that one thing pretty quickly. But if they come up with it too quickly, they probably gave you the obvious, easy answer first. So if they answered it easily, you follow up with this question: what else? And when they answer that, ask it again. And what else? And what else? And you keep asking this until you literally see in their face their level of thinking change, because this is going to force them to come up with that one true thing that's blocking them. And once they get to that, it is going to disrupt or change their thinking and their course of action. Here's a second example. What do you need to adjust in the way you work so that you're spending 80% of your time in your strength zone? Okay, now this is a tough question, and most people aren't going to be able to answer it right away. So your job is to ask it and then sit in silence. Let them think about it, because people aren't used to being asked disruptive questions. They may look at you and even answer, I don't know. I just don't know. Now, sometimes when somebody responds to a disruptive question with, I don't know, I just smile back at them and say, I don't know is not an acceptable answer. And so I force them to answer the question, even if it takes 30 seconds, a minute for them to really think about it, okay? Or that's when I follow up with, okay, let's build a list of possibilities. Let's just brainstorm a list of possibilities. Now you're pushing them to think hard. You're making them come up with multiple answers to that question. Now, be careful not to answer this question for them. You want to force them to think. And then after they give 2 or 3 answers, then you can start submitting your ideas as well. But make sure you're making them do the work, making them think deeply on the answer to this question. And once they really think this through and you help them narrow this down to the 2 or 3 things that they truly need to do to operate in their strength zone, then you've just disrupted their thinking, which will change their behavior. Okay, the third example I want to give you is a series of 4 questions that working together are disruptive, okay? I used this just the other day with some youth pastors. All right, here it is. What is the mission of your area of ministry? Describe your strategy to accomplish that mission. What part of your strategy is the weakest, and what needs to be changed? Now, this series of questions is so good because many pastors or leaders are executing programs with no strategic approach. And so they're not getting the results they really want. And so this series of questions will lead to some disruptive thinking and force them to think about why they're doing what they're doing. You know, sometimes the best disruptive questions are like this. They force people to think sequentially and strategically, and as a result, it disrupts what's normal for them so they can begin to think what's better for them. Okay, now let me give you one more example. Here's the 4th one. Why? That's it. The 4th disruptive question is why? I use this question all the time, and used at the right time, that question can blow people away. I had a guy in a training session the other day, and he was explaining why he had a specific leadership deficiency, and he just sort of excused it away. So I asked him, well, why? He said, why what? I said, well, why are you that way? He said, well, it's my personality. I said, okay, but why else are you that way? He looked away for a moment, and I could see him processing. And then it came out. He said, well, my dad was that way. I said, okay, why else are you that way? He said, well, I've never seen anybody model that aspect of leadership. And again, I said, well, give me another reason. Why else are you this way? Why else do you allow that deficient leadership habit in your life? So again, I said, why else are you that way? And he said, you know, I've grown comfortable with being this way. Why was a powerful question for him to get to a breakthrough for how he could change this aspect of his leadership. So after he gave me 4 or 5 answers, I looked at him and I said, you cannot change the way you are until you understand why you're the way you are. And it was just exploded in his mind, and he became convicted that he needs to change what's normal in his life. Guys, disruptive questions are a powerful tool for you as a developer, but you have to be careful when using them. They are truly like dynamite, and they can cause damage if not handled carefully. So let me give you 4 quick tips for using disruptive questions. Tip number 1 is don't answer the question for them. There might be a few seconds of silence, and that's okay. That means the wick of that dynamite question is burning and it's about to explode in their mind. So just settle in, be comfortable with the silence, and let the question do its work. Tip number 2, ask with the right tone of voice. If you ask a disruptive question in too serious of a tone, you're likely to cause them to be defensive. So you want to ask in a spirit of curiosity. A lot of times I get so excited about asking a disruptive question, I actually smile because I know it's going to help them so much. And smiling tends to communicate, hey, I'm for you. It communicates a positive spirit rather than a critical spirit. So be careful of your tone. Tip number 3 is read their face. Ask the question, and then after you ask that disruptive disruptive question, if they look down or away, that's actually a good sign. It means they're thinking. It's an indication that they're processing. And sometimes you're going to see them turn their eyebrows down. This means they're thinking deeply. But if they cross their arms and they close their body position to you, it may mean you came across too direct. So be careful with your tone. And then tip number 4 is use emotional intelligence, okay? The closer the relationship you have, the more challenging you can be with someone. So be careful not to insult them or make them look foolish in front of others by asking them a question that may be too personal for a group setting or even too personal for a one-on-one setting if you don't have that level of relationship with that individual. So hey guys, give this a try this week and see if you can disrupt the normal pattern of thinking and behavior of those you're equipping and lead them to new levels of development. If you'd like some more of these disruptive questions, click on the description below because I've listed some of my favorite as well as some questions you can use with your team to discuss this video together. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in next Tuesday's video.